Okay, so again, we are going to be continuing the learning of the Gemara in Masechet Megilah. We are at the top of Tet Vav Amud Bet. I will share the screen in a second, and so you guys can also see and follow along. We are continuing to learn out the teachings of Rabbi Elazar Amar Rabbi Chanina. Like he said in the last year, this is an opportunity the Gemara often takes to get down all the teachings it has in the name of someone, lest it get forgotten, even though it may not necessarily be connected to the sugya. So I'm going to share screen. Second. Share screen. And we are beginning. Okay, so we are Vama Rabbi here. Vama Rabbi Elazar, 5 lines down. Vama Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Chanina. Okay. So Vama Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Chanina, Tita Kodesh Baruch Hu Liot Atara. In the future, so it says Rabbi Elazar in the name Rabbi Chanina. In the future, Kodesh Baruch Hu will be a crown. The Mepharshim explained that he will dwell. His Shekhinah will dwell on people. The Rosh Kod Tzaddik Tzaddik, on the head of every righteous person, Shneimar in Yeshayahu, B'yomahu Yeh Hashem Sfarot Le'ater Tzvi. God will be a crown. God of the Master of Legions will be a crown for the Tzvi. Now Tzvi here doesn't mean a deer. In second, it means. Second, it means Art Scroll translates a teret tzvi to mean a crown of delight. Tzvi also has another meaning, not just a deer, but rather delight as well. Okay, so then asks, what's it mean, that pasuk? Losim tzivyono umlosopim tifarto. Those who do his sivyon, which means his ratzon, and are waiting for his tiferet, meaning waiting for his praise and his greatness, they will have the crown. Yachol. So I'll get back to the sharing screen. We are now here, okay. The last line before the very thin lines. Yachol, Yakol, can it be for every person, even if they are taking pride and they're haughty? Talmama l'sha'amo. Only those who place themselves as if they are the leftovers, they are lowly, they are the ones who will merit for this crown. And now the Gemara wants to understand what the end, the continuation of the Pasukim mean there in Yeshayahu. L'urach mishpat, ze adan et yitzor. Those who judge their spirit, what's that refer to? Ze adan et yitzor, the one that judges his own yetzer and forces it to do tshuva. Yoshev ala mishpat, and the one who sits upon judgment. Ze hadan din emet lamito. That is the one who judges a true judgment and doesn't go left or right from the judgment and the truth, rather judges it purely out of truth. What does it mean likvura in that pasuk? So that's the one who overcomes his yetzer. And we talked about in the Sidra Gvura, and he's stronger than even one that captures a city. What's Meshivei Mechama? I mean, the pshat is those who give war, but what's it referring to? Give war. Those that are involved in the battle of Torah, meaning when they're in a machloket, they show there's a war going on, meaning you don't give in, you can fight back and forth in the chavruta until you've clarified what the truth is. Sa'ara. What's the pasuk sha'ara? Sorry, not Sarah. Sha'ara, right? The gate. What gate is it referring to? Those who are waking up, the Tamei Chachamim who are waking up in the morning and staying late in the Beit Midrash and the Beit Knesset. And all these people get this amazing zchut and bracha from the Kodesh Baruch of the Ateret Tzvi. And now we continue with learning the pasuk after it. Amra midat adin lifnei Kodesh Baruch Hu, the midah, the character trait of Kodesh Baruch of din, said before Kodesh Baruch Hu, what's the difference between the nations of the world and Am Yisrael? And the nations of the world also can have good midot. So why don't they get the promise of getting crown as well? The difference is that even though the nation of the world can also achieve these midot, they don't involve themselves with learning of Torah. And therefore the merit of the Torah is what gives Am Yisrael that ability to receive these amazing things. Amalei, gam ele beyayin shavu v'shechatau. Bakul pliliya. The thing says, I understand now, and that makes sense. And that is why the Jews who don't learn Torah end up in bad places, meaning Gehinnom. And instead of learning Torah, they are making mistakes with wine and wandering around with beer, just like the nations of the world. It could be Paku Pliliya. Therefore, they are judged in Gehinnom. Meaning, it's not a bracha for the Jews to get wherever they want to get. If they learn Torah and get these midot, then they get to the world to come. The nations of the world, because they don't learn from Torah, they're not the driving force behind any character development they do isn't the Torah. Then they don't get to amazing places because they're not part of the nation of Israel, because it's not from the Torah. Okay, so what does Paku Pliliya mean? We said it means they're going down and judged in Gehinnom. But the Gemara wants to ask, Ein Paku ela Gehinnom. There's no Paku rather than Gehinnom. We know it means Gehinnom, Shnei Ma'al. When Abigail, which we learned about a few tapim ago, asked from David to not kill Nabal, she says, Lo tieh zot lecha lefuka. And this killing of Nabal shouldn't be for you a fuka. Which means don't cause yourself a sin which will bring you down to Gehinnom. No, skip back a second. And the word pliliya is referring to Dayanim, the judges. Shneimar, regarding someone hits his wife, hits a woman, and because that she miscarries, that he pays her compensation. Meaning, what does that possibly mean? What does it mean? That he pays her the amount that the judges have decided, and therefore we know that the pasuk means Paku Pliliya. Those who don't learn Torah are Paku Pliliya, are being judged in Gehinnom. That's what the whole pasuk means, because Paku means, Paku is referring to Gehinnom, and Paku is referring to Gehinnom, and Pliliya is referring to the judgment. Okay, now we're going back to Megillah. We are now talking about, we're in the stage where Esther is standing in front of the king Achashverosh, and it says, V'tamod b'chatzar beit hamelech ha'pnimit. So we're going to go down a bit in the daf because I haven't gone down. I'll go down more so we actually just we're now on the last line, middle width line, last word. V'tamod b'chatzer beit hamelech pnimit. She's now standing in the inner chamber of the king, courtyard, and she's gone there even though she wasn't invited. She's worn royal clothing, and now she is standing in front of the king. Tamod b'chatzer beit hamelech pnimit. Amar Rabbi Levi. Why does it not say she came and she stood? It just says she's standing there. Since she got to the place of the idols within the palace of Achashverosh, Shechina left her. Meaning that's why it didn't say the Tavo. What would the Tavo mean? That would imply that the Shechina is with her. The Shechina has now left her because she is passed through the room with all the idols in it. Amra Eli Eli lama zavtani. And when she sees this happening to her, she turns to God and says from Tehillim, Eli Eli lama zavtani. Why did you abandon me, my God? Shema tatan al shogeg kemezid. Is it perhaps that you are judging me, even though it's mistake, it's shogeg, it's not intentional, as mezid as intentional? She's worried that now the Shekhinah is leaving her as a punishment for her going through a room with idols when she doesn't want to. She's being forced to. She's not mezid, she's shogeg. And then she also says, "Val, honest, and me having been forced now to come to the king." And it's honest, it's rape basically. She has to, as if I really want to. Meaning, even though she's coming wanting me right now because she's not being called to the king, and therefore it's not her being forced to, it's as if she's being forced to, and she doesn't want to be judged as someone who's intentionally having relations with another man when she's married. Or Shema, Ashkativ, Kelev, or maybe the Ruach HaKodesh has been removed because I called Achashverosh a dog. Or Shema, Ashkativ, Kelev, Shneimar, Hatzila Mecherev Nafshi, Miyad Kelev Yechidati. It says in Tehillim, that same place, that we say that Esther said it, Hatzila Mecherev Nafshi, save me my nefesh from the sword, and take me also Miyad Kelev Echidati, and also save my oneness, my nefesh, from the dog, meaning referring to Achashverosh. Chazar Kata Aryeh, and therefore immediately she started calling him an Aryeh, which is a respectful animal, not a dog. Shnemar Hosheni Mipi Aryeh, save me from the mouth of the lion. Okay, now continuing, we're now here. Okay, if I think you can see my mouse, Vayhi. Okay, there. And here, oh, there, yeah. Okay, Vayhi. Let's lost it again. Vayhi Kirot HaMelech, right? So now she sees him standing. So he sees her standing, waiting to be called. Vayhi Kirot HaMelech et Esther Malka. He sees her standing there. Amar Rabbi Yochanan Shosha Malachei Asher Nizdamnu La. 3 guardian angels came to Esther, Botosha at that time. One of the angels lengthened her neck to make her more beautiful. Back then it was a beautiful thing to have a longer neck. And one which pulled a string of chesed upon her, meaning made her more attractive to and one which lengthened the scepter of the king until Esther, until it would touch her head. So until she would be able to touch the head of the scepter. Now we know this is a famous midrash, the scepter of the king, she's standing on the other side of the room. The scepter wasn't that long, so how was she able to touch it? And this happened, it became long. Now we need to know how much it did. The kama, how many amot did it lengthen it by itself by? Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, shtei amot haya. Ve'mido shtemeseh, it was 2 amot long, and now it's gone up by 6. 6 times shtem, it's gone to 12 amot. Va'amrila, shesheseh, and some people say it actually went to 16. Va'amrila, simab, and some say even became lengthened by 24 amot. But Matnitatan, we have a brighter which says Shisha, it became 6 amot long. So too, in a similar midrash about Batya, who rescued Moshe from the teva, from the basket, that in the Nile, that her arm also stretched out, and it was however long it was, an amah, and it became 6 amot for her to be able to reach it. But also you find that with the teeth of the evil people, this is referring to Og Melech HaBashan, who was a giant, that he uprooted a mountain to throw on Am Yisrael, and ants came along, a swarm of ants, if it's called a swarm, they don't fly, so not a swarm, but a great multitude of ants came along, and it started, before he threw it on Am Yisrael, it started eating away at the mountain, and some of the mountain fell into his mouth, and fell down his throat, and when he wanted to get rid of it, his teeth became long, and stopped him from able to taking it out. And how do we know this midrash? Where's the remez? Where's the suggestion? Where's the hint towards this midrash? Dichtiv shnei rasham shibalta. You broke the teeth of the evil. Don't reach shibalta, break. Rather, play on words and reach shirivavta, that you lengthened it. So God lengthened the teeth of Og Melech HaBashan. Rabba Bar Ofran Amar Mishum Rabbi Eliezer. Rabba Bar Ofran said in the name of Rabbi Eliezer, Sheshama Marabo Limatayim. So Rabba Bar Ofran heard from his rabbi, that it actually lengthened from 2 amot to 200 amot, meaning it lengthened by 100 times the length. So he puts out the scepter, and then he says to her, "What do you want? I'll give you even half my kingdom. How can I help you? I want to do everything I can." And his intention was, he promised her only half and not the whole. And so what's saying Chetzi Malchut? Actually, he wasn't literally saying Chetzi, he was saying something which would divide the world, divide his kingdom. And he was saying, the only thing I'm not going to allow is the Binyan Beit HaMikdash. Achashverosh stopped the rebuilding when he became king, and only his son, Esther's son, with Achashverosh, is the one that enabled it to be finished, and that is Daryavish. So he is already declaring that he's not going to allow the Beit HaMikdash to be built. Umaynihu Binyan Beit HaMikdash. Okay, now we continue. Yavo Hamelech v'Haman el Mishlei. So she says to him, Haman and the king should come to the party. Why did she think it would make sense to invite Haman to the meal? Like when you want to take down your enemy, you don't invite him over for a meal. So why is she choosing this method to take him down? Rabbi Eliezer Tana says, she is planning on preparing a trap. As it says in Tehillim, that the table before the evil will be a trap. She learned it from her father's house. She learned it there when she was younger. As it says in Mishlei, if your hater, if your enemy is hungry, feed him bread. And the continuation of the pasuk is, because then you are stoking coals on his head. And so what's Mishlei trying to teach you? That the meal for the Rashayim is a way of making them fail. We know that this indeed happened in the time of Achashverosh and Vashti. The whole reason that it brought Achashverosh down and weakened him and enabled eventually Daryavish to be born and enabled the Beit HaMikdash to be rebuilt was through this meal that he did, the Sudan. Rabbi Meir Omer, Kedei she lo yito etzav imod. So invited Haman and Achashverosh, so Haman would become humbled in front of Achashverosh and wouldn't rebel against Achashverosh. And then all of what he said, what Esther is saying to Achashverosh wouldn't be beneficial anyway, because then if Haman rebels against Achashverosh, and what have you done? There's just a new king who he himself is the big anti-Semite. So, 1 second. So that's why he invited them both together, to enable it not to happen, that Haman would rebel. Meaning the meal in which Achashverosh is told about Haman would already be then could be stopped. Meaning, if she didn't invite him there, then they might plan and find out that she was Jewish and stop her from helping and so she had this plan to somehow get Haman there so he wouldn't discover beforehand that she was Jewish. So as Am Yisrael wouldn't get to a stage where they were saying, we now know that we have an inside person in the past. We know it. Her name's Esther. And if Esther's meeting with the king, Baruch Hashem, everything's going well. We can stop davening. We don't need to. Everyone can sit back now and see how it's all going to work out. Rather, she wanted to keep them on their toes and still be worried. So she invited Haman to the meal where she's eventually going to discover, reveal that she's Jewish, and that's going to keep everyone balachatz kazeh that they need still to daven. Rabbi Yossi Omer, כדי שיהיה מצוי, we're here now, כדי שיהיה מצוי לה בכל עת. She invited also Haman, so Haman would be close to Achashverosh. Meaning, maybe she can trip him up during the meal, not literally, and then make him need to be killed by Achashverosh, and Achashverosh will be there straight away to kill him. Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh Omer, maybe a Kodesh Baruch Hu will send something. What's he going to send? And bring the evil anti-Semite close to me and endanger myself even more, and therefore God will want to help even more to help me out of this situation. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Kach Omer, Asbir lo panim, I'll be nice to Haman, and I'll give Achashverosh the feeling that he's got something to be jealous with, because of. So Achashverosh will kill me and Haman, but at least then we've solved the issue. And she's willing to sacrifice herself to stop the decree. That Achashverosh, we discussed maybe 2 weeks ago, the Gemara about whether he was clever or stupid, Achashverosh. Well, it's clear the Gemara definitely thinks he's not so decisive. He's always changing his mind. And if Haman isn't there at the time when the decree that she reveals, maybe Achashverosh, by the time he calls Haman to bring him in, he'll have calmed down. So she wants the decision to be made, and there not to be any chance for Achashverosh to change his mind because of his lack of decisiveness. Amar b'Gamliel, Adayin tzrichim anu le'modai. Says even though we've heard all the other reasons given by all these other Tanaim, we still need the reason of Rabbi Eliezer Hamodai. The Tanya Rabbi Eliezer Hamodai Omer kinato v'mech kinato b'sarim. Esther wanted Haman to be jealous of the king. Sorry, no, the way around. Esther wanted the king to be jealous of how much honor she is giving to Haman, and also for the other sarim, other ministers, to see how honored Haman is. Meaning, Esther didn't invite anyone else. She invited Achashverosh, and she invited Haman. Achashverosh is going to think, why is she giving so much honor to him? I need to get all the honor. Secondly, all the other ministers are going to think, what's going on? Why is Haman getting all the honor? And that's already going to awaken with them distrust of Haman and hopefully get rid of him. Okay, and no one's going to have mercy on Haman when the time comes to kill him. Before the Rasha falls, he gets a big promotion. Meaning, no, when someone's going like this, or Russia is going like this, Putin, hopefully, please God, and the Rishaim of the world, they go up before the big fall. And that's why she's bringing him. Meaning, she knows that Lifnei Sheva Gaon in Mishlei Tet Zayin Uchet teaches that if I get a Russia to go up, I know he's already going down. Abai and Rava both say from Yirmiyahu, B'chumam Ashit et Mishtehem, that the suffering of the evil comes from the Mishteh, comes from the banquets. And we know that Belshazzar already, when he came back from war, when he beat Dayavesh and Koresh, B'chumam Ashit et Mishtehem. Meaning, I will sort it out that the mishtem, the banquets, will be at a time of heat. B'chumam ashit et mishtem. In the heat, I will cause the banquets to be. Why? Because they get so thirsty because of the heat. They will drink a lot of wine and a lot of alcohol. So drink a lot of wine and alcohol, and they will have suffering. Meaning, they will be so delirious from alcohol that they will be drinking and it will bring upon themselves sin. Like we know from Belshazzar, who ended up being so drunk that he made a really bad call by drinking, by drinking from the kelim, from the vessels of the Mishkan, the Mikdash, and that in the end caused him to get to where he wanted. And that's also what, according to this, what Esther was hoping for, that by bringing the Achashverosh and Haman together in a banquet and the drinks and stuff, and the end of the pasuk is so for them to get married and get drunk, and they will sleep a sleep that will last forever and will not wake up. Meaning she's trying to get a situation where the evil through their banquets and getting drunk will be destroyed. Ashkei Rabba Bar Avua Leliyahu. Rabba Bar Avua bumps into Eliyahu and Avi. Amale, Kaman Chazia Esther Vavda Hachi. Which one of the reasons did Esther use or think of to invite Haman to this banquet, to this part of this meal? Amale Kachulu Tanai Uchulu Amorai. All the reasons of the Tanaim, all the reasons of Amorai were the reason behind what she was doing. V'yisaper lehem Haman et kvod Oshro v'rov banav, and she one second. V'yisaper lehem Haman et kvod Oshro v'rov banav. Now we are back here, so we're saying he is now, after the first party, gone back home, and he's telling his whole family what's going on. So he says, "V'saper lehem Haman et kvod Oshro v'rov banav v'kama rov banav." So he says, the whole pasuk is this: Hashem recounts to them the glory of his wealth and of his many sons, and all the ways in which the king had promoted him and elevated him above the officials and royal servants. Meaning he's already getting very cocky, very haughty about his position. And what does it mean, his many sons? But come out of Banav, how many sons did he have? Meaning, it doesn't sound like he had 10, it sounds like he had tons. So it's like a huge family. Amarav Shoshim, he had 30. Asara Metu, and 10 of them died. V'asara Nitlu, and so 10 of them died naturally. V'asara Nitlu, and 10 of them were hung on the tree. or the gallows, I'm sorry. V'asara mechazrim al ptachim, and 10 of them were poverty-stricken after this story of the Megillah, and as such end up having to collect money on the streets from door to door. Rabbanan actually say no, there were 70 Bnei Haman who in the end had to became poverty-stricken. Tichtib sveim belechem niskau. That is from Shmuel Aleph. This pasuk is from Shmuel Aleph, and it's you being used to darshan now the whole story of what's it called, of the sons wandering around. So it's in Shmuel Aleph, Perek Bet, pasuk Hey. So the sated ones are hired out for bread, while the hungry ones cease to be so. This is part of Hannah's song of praise after Shmuel is born, and she praises God, and she says that man's fortunes can change. The sated ones, the ones who have enough food, satiated ones, are hired out for bread. They don't have any bread yet. Now, sveim means satiated. They have enough food, they're full. But it can also mean, or can even, if you were to read it differently, it's the same letters, shiv'im, 70. And that's hinting towards there will be 70 people who will one day need bread. And that's referring to Haman's children. Okay. V'rami bar Abba amar kulan. Sorry, Kulan, Matayim Shmona Havu. They're actually 208. If you count those who are died natural deaths, those who were hung, and those who didn't have enough food, there were 208 of them. Shnema V'rov Banav. As it says, V'rov Banav, and what's the gematria of Rov Banav? V'rov, I'm sorry, Vav, Reish, and Vet. That comes to 208, Vav is 6, Reish is 200, and Vet is, or Bet is 2, or that is 208. Gemara challenges, the Rov B'Gematria Matan V'Arba'asar Havu. Hold on, that's not correct. If you read it fully, it's a Rov, the Rov, with a Vav in the middle as well. And that would come up to 214, Amar Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, the Rov Ketiv. In the Megillah, it's written Vorov without the Vav. So there's a different reading if there's a Vav in the middle or not. We read it without the Vav, and therefore it's 208. Okay, now that night after that meal, where Achashverosh may have found it strange that Haman was invited to the party and no one else was, he is struggling to sleep. Achashverosh is struggling to sleep. That night, the king was restless and he couldn't really sleep so well. And Rav Tanchum, who was really struggling to sleep, Kivyachol, Kodesh Baruch Hu, and he awoke to redeem Am Yisrael, to save them. Rabban Amri, Nadadu Elyonim, Nadadu Tachtonim, that the angels came down to wake up those who were down here. And they're saying to him, like, wake up, get up, and reward the one which has done you, has helped you out. Who's the one that's helped you out? That is Mordechai, who saved you with regards to Big Tamateresh. We are now here. So he says, no, it's not God, and it's not the angels, it's Mamash Achashverosh who couldn't sleep. Nafla le milta bedate, v'amar mai tekaman tizminte Esther lehaman, dima etza kashak le'ilavei dahu kava miktele. He started thinking. He's the one who can't sleep, because after that party, he's thinking maybe Esther is planning a rebellion with Haman. Maybe they're trying to get rid of me. Hadamar. He realized, no, he's probably wrong. He says, I've got enough servants who tell me about this plan. I've got enough close servants So it can't be that that's what's going on. Lo hava gavra darachim li dahava modali. Hada amar dima ika inish dahava bi tivuta velo po'ate. Rather, maybe there's someone who wouldn't tell me, and wouldn't tell me because the last time, and people wouldn't tell me because last time I rewarded someone did something good for me, I didn't reward them. So I now need to reward someone for doing something good for me, and then people will know it's worth telling me the truth of what's going on if there are any rebellions. And that's why he says people aren't telling me what's going on because I didn't reward people the last time. That's when he said, bring me the book of history, basically, of memory, the chronicles of my kingdom, so I can look who I didn't reward, and then I'll reward them, and then people will tell me again if there's actually some Freulichkeit going on, bad things going on, as I say English, Freulichkeit. Okay, now, V'yu Nikraim, and the chronicles were being read. Now, Nikraim is a weird conjugation of a verb, and that's why the Gemara learns that Nikraim, what does it mean? They were being read. Melamed she Nikraim aleim, that they were reading themselves. It was a special, it sounds like a magical book. Always magical, always all because of the need to get Achashverosh to hear what he'd done wrong and hadn't rewarded. It was somehow reading itself. It's like Amazon, what's it called, thing which reads books for you. That's the kind of thing which is going on. And it was found written, Katav Megilah. It won't say Katuv, it should say Katav. So it's in Katuv. Melamed, we just turned over to the next staff. Melamed, Shimshai, the scribe, Mochek, was trying to delete from the book of Chronicles what Mordechai had done. So he was seemingly also an anti-Semite and didn't want Mordechai to get any credit. The Gavriel Kotev, and Gavriel as the angel Gavriel as the Sofer, the scribe, was trying to delete it, was rewriting all the time. Therefore it says Katuv, because it's been written right now. Amar Rabbi Asi, by the angel. Amar Rabbi Asi, Darash Rabbi Shila, Ish Kfar Timrata, and for Rabbi Asi would say that Rabbi Shila from Timrata would say, Uma Katav, Shilamata Shel Zchuta Yisrael, Eno Nimchak, Katav Shilamala, Lo Kol Sheken. Just from here we learn that the good things written about the Jews in this world don't get deleted. All the more so, when good things are written in Shemaim, they also don't get deleted. It's a Kal V'chomer, a Kol Sheken, all the more so if a non-Jewish scribe who writes good things about the Jews can't actually delete what has been written, so too, good things which are written about Am Yisrael cannot also be deleted. Have a wonderful Shabbat, and those who see this Masechet Shabbat, have a Shavuot Tov.